Front and center this hour, the return of big tech. Nasdaq hitting 20K for the first time ever. It is right there right now. Several mega caps are also hitting record highs at this very moment. We're going to go through all of it. We're going to trade everything. Joining me for the hour, Joe Terranova, Shannon Saccocia, Stephanie Link, Rob Sechin. We will check the markets. I just told you what the Nasdaq is doing, but and Nasdaq's up by better than 300 points, by the way. S&P almost 1%. The Dow is the laggard by far. But we're going to start with the mega caps. And Rob, I'm just going to go to you first because you're the only one today who's got this position in Apple. But I've got Alphabet record high, Amazon record high, Meta record high, and then Apple 9 straight intraday highs for that name.
So, the biggest challenge to overcome is the projected deceleration in earnings growth for these names, Scott. If you look at the market cap weighted Mag 7, earnings are projected to decelerate from 55% to 25% in 25. And will these stocks, we have no doubt that they'll be as strong into year end. We know a lot of them and own a lot of them, be as powerful leaders, particularly as NVIDIA and Amazon kind of slow down. If you look at this, and this is as of right now, Tesla is the only Mag 7 name projected to exhibit meaningful earnings acceleration. Not to say that can happen, but, that is the only one. NVIDIA and Amazon are expected to experience decelerating earnings growth, and Microsoft, Apple, Google, Meta are all projected to have steady earnings growth. So when you have 55% of the growth index, which is led by these Mag 7 names, projected to decelerate, can the rest of the index kind of lift and drive these forward next year? We think the answer to that is yes, and you just have to remain selective in that index.
Joe, people tried to write these stocks off for a while, thinking that they were going to take this back seat. The rest of the market was going to lead everything, and it has proven not to be the case, particularly lately. It's why the Nasdaq has crossed 20,000 for the first time ever. It is why, on not much news, Apple has hit a record high, has been on this streak. You get a software update today, including ChatGPT. They're said to be working with Broadcom on new AI chips. I don't know if that is, enough to get the stock to continue to work or not. But these other stocks, too, just Mag 7 on track for 4 straight weeks of gains now.
Well, these are core equity holdings in portfolios certainly for retail investors and institutional investors as well. What's interesting to me is that we continue to play this game. We play this game of trying to pick the winner. We play the game of trying to pick the winner because of the environment of 2023. And I think as a speculator and as an investor, you just have to accept that was the environment in 2023. Here we are turning the page into 2024, and you have an optimistic risk-on environment. We go through these little cycles, these little cyclical moments where certain areas of the market receive inflows of capital.
Well, we're turning the page into 2025. I don't, you just said 2024. So what are you talking about? Here and now, or are we talking about the new year?
What has happened in 2024 is a different environment than in 23, where in 23 the conversation surrounded 7 stocks only, and we forgot about the 493. The optimism for 25 is built upon the environment of 24, where you have a broadening out of the opportunity. So that doesn't mean it comes at the detriment of the Mag 7. That doesn't mean it comes at the detriment of the other 493. I never understood the premise that you want to ignore the Mag 7 in your portfolio.
It's not a matter of people weren't necessarily saying ignore it. Nobody was saying get out of it.
Binary choice.
Not necessarily. No, it was just that what was a tremendous level of outperformance was not going to be as such in the new year. That's where it all came down to.
Yeah, but that's completely fair, and I still think you could have that expectation. Just because you have 5 of the Mag 7 names making an all-time high today doesn't mean that they're going to see dramatic outperformance in 2025. And I know some people are suggesting that, in fact, that will be the case. But I don't know, given the environment we have here in 24, if that's the right way to think about moving into 25.
All right, Shan. What do we take from this move, this resurgence? We started calling it that in the last couple of weeks because that's what it's been. Alphabet up 13.5% month to date. Amazon 10.5%, Meta 10.5%, Apple 5.5%. But Apple's been on this huge run. What do we make of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things that are happening here, Scott, right? First, we saw this rotation from semis to software. I think that we've seen a meaningful outperformance from the software perspective, and what that's lending to is really this re-emphasis on enterprise spending going into 2025. And you look at an area like cloud consumption, for instance, which was expected to decline because of cannibalization, because of AI spending, and you're actually seeing a re-emphasis on cloud consumption, so that certainly helps a number of those Mag 7 names. If you think about Apple, innovation for Apple, people threw Apple out the window in the first quarter because they hadn't yet had this articulated AI strategy. It was naive to think that Apple wouldn't come out swinging in the second half of the year and create a strategy for AI that would not only be competitive from an AI perspective, but would also help to drive handsets and this refresh cycle that is so necessary for Apple to be successful.
Would you buy these stocks right now? Would you do that?
I think from the perspective of if you don't have exposure to these stocks, Scott, which, to be fair, I can't imagine that anybody in the U.S. doesn't have. So let's not take it from that perspective then, because it doesn't, I don't think that works for me. If you have exposure and you were thinking, and maybe you were trimming along the way up because you were thinking there was going to be a rotation, should you start adding to these stocks again here with those month-to-date gains that we're showing you right now and the Nasdaq crossing 20K? I think there's probably still some vulnerability at these levels, Scott. So I wouldn't say I would necessarily be adding here. However, I think, again, when you think about these names in each of them specifically, if you think about the overhang for Alphabet, particularly on the regulation side, if you think about them being able to monetize their data, those are things that you have to start to parse out differently from name to name. But if you're looking to set yourself up, to Joe's point, on what we think will be maybe a compressing delta or spread between the performance of the Mag 7 and the rest of the market in 2025, I don't know that necessarily this is the time to enter into these names. Because again, Scott, a lot of this has been driven by equity flows that have just been coming into the market since the election, and a lot of that is being driven by going into some more passive or index-based solutions.